You're a big fan for many years now. You visited the new
Yeah.
campus.
I bought the second Macintosh computer ever sold in Europe in January 1984, and since then I've been pretty much a follower of Apple, and I have to say an enthusiastic one. This, to me, is a bit like Charlie visiting the chocolate factory. Willy Wonka died 4 years ago, sadly, but there's a new Willy Wonka in Tim, and he did an amazing presentation.
Yeah, you're part of these, well, almost the inner circle now, right? You always get an invitation.
Well, I'm friends with Johnny Ive, who's the designer, and have been for many years, and I do know Phil and Joz and Tim and all the team, and yes, they're very kind. They invite me to come to these events, and if I frankly had to walk, I would do it, because some people think it's pitiful that I should spend so much emotional energy on machines, devices, but to me they give enormous pleasure. Both the aesthetic and the problem-solving side of what Apple managed to do each time, which always astounds me. I have to say, I came to this event thinking, we'll just get a 7, that'd be a bit of an upgrade. All this fuss about there not being an interlock mini jack audio of the kind that everybody uses in there, that's going to get all the attention. But they always wrong foot me, and there's always incredible surprises. These new
AirPods.
I mean, they're astonishing looking, aren't they? I mean, the amount they pack into this tiny, and Johnny showed me the pack, it's that big. And it's got dual accelerometers, it's got infrared to sense how it's adjusted in your ear, as well as an entirely new chip, which is revolutionary, I think. And I think that is really the story, rather than the lack of a mini jack, because after all, every iPhone 7 comes with the converter from mini jack to lightning adapter, and you just put that on the end of your favorite earphones, and you wouldn't even notice it's there.
Yeah, all the commotion beforehand is...
Yeah, because the key for really good sound, as any audiophile knows, is being able to drive your earphones in some way, which takes power, and you can't get power out of those analog interlock connectors. So you need somehow to have power. Now, your classic sort of aeroplane noise-cancelling ones have a battery, don't they? A AAA battery you usually slide in somewhere. You obviously can't do that with the kind of earphones you need for exercise or just generally around the house.
And with lightning, that's possible.
And Bluetooth is not a very good medium at all for carrying rich audio, as most people would say. It's fine for an audio book or something like that, or for a phone conversation, but not for rich musical experience. So I think people are going to be astonished.
A little bit back to the AirPods.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet. I have to admit, I had to laugh a little bit. He said, well, hey, they just look like my Oral-B electric toothbrush.
It's true, actually. I mean, it's very much out of Johnny Ive's stable. If you remember, the original white earphones were kind of traditional, and then came the Buds, and they were sold with every iPhone. And these are like the Buds, but yeah, they do look like a toothbrush. You see, now it's funny you should say that, because before Johnny came to Apple in the 90s, he worked on bathroom designs.
Really?
And when the iPod changed to that really round white edge, I called it his toilet period, because basically everything looked like a bath or a sink or a lavatory. And he's kept to that, and he loves white, as you can see in this room, and the purity of his design. Some people think it's overdone. I personally think that it's so much more than just minimalism. It's a genuine commitment to a unity of design that makes things remarkable in function.
The ceramic, when we're talking about design,
Yes.
the ceramic Apple Watch 2.
Yes, this is an extraordinary sort of new material. If you look at an ordinary, this here, the back this is a standard, first generation Apple Watch. This is called zirconia, and it's a sort of
Sounds like from the X-Men.
But it does sound like it sounds like one of the mutant girls, Zirconia, who can do remarkable things with materials, and maybe that's what Johnny is one of the X-Men, and that comes from zircon, which is a semi-precious stone, a mineral, and this new white ceramic is actually zirconia, and it's a great deal harder than stainless steel and stronger and more durable. But all I've done is feel it with my finger, and it feels very kind of like silky, satiny. It's got a lovely feel to it, and the watch bands look very good with it, and it's a very light and incredibly durable material. I think that's the key.
Have you had a chance yet to try some of the new stuff?
I've just run my fingers on it. I mean, the thing I think most of us are really anxious to play with. One of the real signature features is this double-lensed iPhone 7 Plus with the optical telephoto. And everyone's used to the idea of just sort of stretching and pinching and zooming. Yeah. But that's it wobbles. It's bound to. But
are you a Plus type, by the way, or a regular?
I'm Plus, though I use an iPhone SE for morning walks and listening to audiobooks because it takes less room. At the exponential rate of development that the iPhone is undergoing in all its different departments, phone, audio, this camera is going to be replaced by an iPhone before we know where we are.
We feel a bit awkward, to be honest, because it's almost the biggest camera here.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think the point is there are always will be Apple haters, people who find the company uncomfortable. They think it's cultish. They think people like me are semi-religious in our interest and obsession with the products that come out of Cupertino here in California. And I accept that. I know that there will always be people who are very cross about it and will go out of their way not to have Apple. But I think what they don't understand is what it gives to the entire ecosystem of portable devices, and whether they be tablets or PCs or phones using Android or any other system, is that Apple is not always the first developer. It's not, they're not the first people to come out with things necessarily, but they make it somehow incredibly, they create a niche, they create a use and an expectation in devices. People forget in 2007, before the iPhone appeared, just how clunky and useless really so-called smartphones were. And what they did was astonishing. And a year later, the G1, the first Google phone, came out running a sort of Android version. It didn't have pinch and zoom. It was a resistant rather than a capacitance touch screen. But they developed, and now you have got the option of the Samsungs and HTCs and Sonys and others who make for Android, and that's perfectly acceptable, because what you're getting is a whole raft of things that were created by the Apple iPhone environment, and that will happen with sound. Everyone who's saying, what's gone wrong? Why is this? I love my little mini jack. In 5 years' time, believe me, I mean, the generation, and people will hear someone's iPhone and these new AirPods, and they will go, I want that. And Sony will want to put it in their Experian, and HTC will put it in their phones. In some way, they'll try and, they'll put a chip inside the earphone and make it a really smart piece of kit.
Final question. You seem like someone like myself who is embedded in the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's very hard for guys like us then to switch.
Yes.
If you're new to the game, and there are still people that are new to the game, how would you say that Apple, with these new products, the Apple Watch 2, the new iPhone 7, 7 Plus, do they keep their lead?
Yeah, at the moment they will, I think, retain their lead, simply because they just work harder at producing more extraordinary things. And in a sense, it's easier for them because they control the software and the hardware. And that's not true. Google don't make phones anymore, really. And so the Android system is, you have to develop, what are you going to, use a soft home key or back key, or a hard one? I literally do click it, or, all these things create a real problem for software developers who are making Android apps. The people kind of They have to make it specific for that phone, for the Samsung rather than the Sony or whatever. Well, that's changing a bit, but the fact is they'll always have a lead because they control everything about what they're doing. And because anybody who watched the keynote today, they love it. I mean, to see Phil Schiller, the cuddliest man in tech, to see him, you could just see he was like a proud father. And at the risk of being very pretentious, which is always a risk I'm prepared to take, we are human beings, and we first have emotions and feelings, both physical feelings, we feel things, and the look we give a baby or a dog or someone we love or someone we like is a huge part of our everyday interaction, and it's mostly what our brain, the visual cortex and the various other parts of the brain, do more processing in that than in any other. And Apple are the only ones who've understood that if a device uses the same part, i.e. your emotional reaction, your sense of stroking and smiling and engaging with an object, that's what we've spent millions of years evolving to do with life forms, with food, with nature, with the things around us, and our brains are geared to that. They're not geared to things that are just the sum of their functions. And that is the secret, if you want it seems to me, of Apple's extraordinary success, is they tap into the huge range of emotions, feelings, responses, instincts that we've adapted over so long.